across this journey, we're talking about wealth principle 48, know thyself. This is a principle of personality assessments.
You know,
Dr. Terry Wager, tell us about
Dr. Terry Wager.
wealth principle 48. Know thyself.
Wealth principle 48. You know, knowing ourselves and knowing the people that we're dealing with is the most important thing, because sales, growing businesses, investing, no matter what we're doing, there's people involved. I don't think I've ever done a deal that there's not people involved. I don't think, even when you're buying something online, there's still people involved. There's people on the other side setting it up. There's us who are doing it. There's people who are in the middle who are transferring money, even though it looks like wires. I've had it happen where I've lost money in that, and I've had to talk to people to get my money out of it. And so there's always people. And the more that we understand ourselves, the more that we can deal with and understand and communicate with others. And so when we at Generator Coaching start working with people, we start with the person as a foundations of your business. You are the foundation of your business. And then we talk about the idea that you also need to build a team. That's relationships. And we're always looking to create win-win out of all of these, because the more that we create opportunities for each person in our lives, the more opportunities come back to us. It's the law of reciprocity that Doug was talking about. And so if we don't know ourselves, or we're just going off of what we're telling ourselves, we're having a problem, because our head is telling ourselves all kinds of stuff off of our protection system. And so the more we understand what's going on with us, what scares us, what motivates us, what inspires us, what stops us, the more we know that stuff, the easier it is to go down the tracks on the bullet train of action. And so, know thyself, to thine own self be true. All of these different statements. By the way, that's not like a Bible quote. That's Shakespeare. And what we really want to make sure is we're paying attention to ourselves. I do this different kind of profile that Walter's talking about than the disc. And the one thing that comes up for most people is they ignore themselves. They ignore how they feel about themselves. They ignore what they want. They ignore what they're doing, because the noise of the world creates this secondary thing that we pay attention to constantly. And so when we can get under that and really identify what we truly want, what we're truly all about, what we truly value, not what we tell ourselves we value, but what we truly value, we can actually start to see ourselves progress so much faster. So this is, for me, being the first week of 2022, by the way, this is one of the most foundational, important ideas there is. And it's not just about the context of how people show up, but it's really the change mechanism inside of us, how we want to be moving forward from here. And so this is a super powerful, important lesson. And so if anybody is looking to make change in their life, the first thing you're going to do is connect with Doug on his topic of communication through NLP next week, and then really see what's going on with me, where are my blind spots, and how can I actually get rid of those blind spots by knowing myself better. Pro tip, get some help with that.
Let's give Dr. Terry Wager a round of applause. I love seeing the support. Doug, I think you're the only other coach on here. I'm looking around the room. I think we might have to get Ron's opinion.
All right.
No, you don't. As he shakes his head.
Doug, go ahead, brother.
All right. So yeah, obviously, knowing ourselves is the most important thing. We got to know ourselves, love ourselves, and of course, be ourselves. And the other thing is what Walter shared earlier, and Terry, is we sometimes forget that people don't have our thoughts in their heads. So we get influenced by how we get influenced. Other people are influenced how they are influenced. So once we understand how to unpack how we are influenced, and that's where DISC comes in, and where all of these opportunities to unpack and learn more about who we are and how we show up, the easier it is for us to notice now other people and how they're showing up, and knowing how we can adjust ourselves. So what Terry was sharing, what Walter was sharing when he was sharing how he was modifying his communication style around the behavioral style of DISC, that is based in NLP of essentially matching and mirroring, by understanding right off the rip someone who is an S is going to be, or C will be more slowly communicating. They're processing information more, a little differently between the two, but they're still needing that time and that opportunity to process. So if we come like gangbusters, because we're a D, so everyone's a D, everyone's an I, we're just going to come in and go, they're like, whoa, 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 slow down, and we'll break rapport. So the more we understand who we are, the more effective we will be at modifying our behavior to meet our participant in our conversation where they're at, so that we could be more effective, more influential, and more successful. And also, by the way, this isn't about manipulation necessarily, because everything is manipulation at the end of the day, right? You take a pen and you write with it, you've manipulated the pen. It's about service. If we really are committed to serving and adding value to someone else's life, doesn't it behoove us to meet them where they're at to help them get what they need more effectively? Instead of us trying to force it, we can influence it. And that's all I have to say about that.
Let's give Doug McGurk a round of applause. It is true. It is true. Influence starts with you, and it can be done faster than the way you're doing it right now. It can be done faster. I love speed. I hate doing things the slow way. I hate taking longer to get anywhere. If I'm going to sit in a line, I'm not going to go. I'll wait until the right time to go when there is no line. I will pay the extra $80 to go into the fast line. I don't like to take any longer than something has to be done. If there's something that takes a long time to get started, I'll batch it up and I'll do a whole bunch of it all at once. Speed to results. When I started thinking about making $1 million, I was never thinking about making $1 million over 20 years. That was never the plan. All right, make $1 million over 20 years. That's $50,000 a year. It takes 20 years to make $1 million that way. If you're making $25,000 a year, it takes 40 years to make $1 million. That was not the goal. The goal was, how do we do it in 1 year? How do I speed up the process? How do I increase the amount of intensity and the amount that I'm creating? I know I have the same amount of time in the day as Oprah Winfrey does. I have the same amount of time in the day as Elon Musk does. I have the same amount of time in the day as Bezos. You can take the richest people on the planet and you can look at yourself and your time. You get the same amount of time. It's not how smart they are. They're no smarter than you. It's what they decided to go after, and then who they influenced, who they got themselves around. You're not stuck where you are. I grew up in Massachusetts. I live in Tampa. You know how many people are back in Mass? Everybody else. Everybody else that I grew up with is still in Mass. I chose to move to Tampa. I chose to change my life. Does that make sense? We're not trees. We're not stuck. Just because we were born somewhere doesn't mean we can't go somewhere else. In Russia, the dollar, the rupee, the ruble doesn't go as far as the dollar does. So when Darina moved from Russia to come here, she had nothing. And she barely spoke the language. But she found a way when she came here. She found a way. 7 years later, she was a real estate investor, right? 10 years later, she was a millionaire. So, and it's not because she's special. She chose. She surrounded herself with people who are successful, and she started realizing, oh my God, if they're successful, I can be successful, because they're just human beings, just like me. So it doesn't matter where I'm from, what I'm doing, what I was taught. Yeah, I grew up in a poor city, right? I grew up with all poor people, grew up in a poor city. I never even considered like a Lamborghini. Didn't even know what that was like. Now I've driven a couple of them. I never even considered the thought of me driving a Lamborghini, but I've done it. I don't want to own one. I'd rather own a Tesla. I'd rather own no car. I'd rather just be driven to where I want to go. That's the truth. But whatever you do with your money, that's you, right? Like whatever you want to make, I don't care. Like go earn the money and give it to poor people, right? Or earn the money and hire poor people, or earn the money even better, hire motivated people who want to get to the next level, who want to be rich one day. That's that's my favorite thing to do with money. People are going to go make more money for me. Let's go build something. Let's go serve something. Let's change the way the world looks. Let's change the way the world thinks. I want to open it up to questions. Actually, Ron, give us your insights. You've been working with me for 5 years. Give me your insights on disc profile, on how we can leverage ourselves and our personalities.
Wow, that is way too open-ended for me. You're calling on the wrong person to talk.
These are all internal beliefs.
Yeah, that's right. And that's what I believe.
So as a millionaire who's the back end of the company, handles all the real work, what would you say? What would you say it's like working with me all the time?
Oh my gosh, what a pain in the ass. Sometimes it's a million miles an hour. Sometimes it's like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm like, yeah, I know. I can see him. You don't know what you're doing. but you have led us into create quite a community here. So that's really cool. And sometimes your ideas are way too big, and then we meet them and I'm just like, okay, well, what's your next crazy idea? And sometimes your crazy ideas are like, no, we're not doing that.
So you have to have balance. Let's give Ron Bowling a round of applause.
Yay, thanks, Ron.
My business partner, literally my best friend. We were strangers when we met. We didn't know each other. He reached out to me, believe it or not. He said, look, I got to learn more about what I'm doing. And I was like, okay, let's see what we can do together. He was the one who said, I would do it with you. I would partner with you. Like he took that initiative. So don't ever say, because you're quiet or shy like Ron is, or claims to be, that you can't go out and find somebody to be around, find somebody to serve, and go out and work together. And he and I worked together for about a year before we partnered up. And we only partnered up because it made a ton of sense. He had money and I had hustle. I had knowledge, I had experience, I had desire and drive, and he had money. Now we're both pretty evenly matched, right? We got the same amount of money. We both become millionaires together. And I have this front end skill of driving and sales, and he has this back end skill of systems and improvement and holding ourselves accountable. I come out with great ideas, and he qualifies whether they're actually a great idea or not. And if they do pass all of his safety checks, we go and we do it. And I think, like you said, I've impressed him with some of the things we've done. And I'll tell you, for me, he has impressed me with some of the things we've done. I wake up sometimes, I look at the systems that are built, I look at the amount of people we're able to serve, I think, man, this is impossible, but yet we're doing it because we've got really good systems in place. We've thought things out. We really done a little extra. So let's give Ron Bowling one more round of applause. Let's give all my partners a round of applause. All the coaches, the mentors, the people who are paying it forward, all of the people who are reaching out, my VAs over in the Philippines. Let's give them a round of applause. Building up the community. I appreciate you guys. Thank you for all the hard work building relationships. I want to open it up to questions. Your questions on this topic, things that we may not have touched, things that we may not have addressed, or it could be completely different. It could be more specific on real estate,